when we started the Zodiac series back in Scorpio season, I think the thing that I love the most about doing every single sign is just the learning process. For me, anyways, because I am learning so much about each of the signs. And I always think when I'm learning, one of the ways that helps me to retain is to keep things like really simple. So just like the other day, I learned that, the moon is not a planet, it's a satellite, and that was good. I have come to the realization that there are 12 months in a year and there are 12 zodiac signs. Like that is easy for me to reference that it changes once a month.
This is a new, legitimately, this is a new observation.
I was like, oh, well, maybe it was just like that reference, like that frame of reference of like bringing things together where I was like, oh, that helps me to keep track. And then the equinoxes also have helped me to realize that that's right around when the zodiacs always shift because I'm also a cusp.
Right.
So I've just been like making these mental connections where I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Let me blow your mind for half a second that there's actually 13 zodiac signs, but it's not included in the Gregorian calendar that we use.
Oh, probably because it fucked it all up. They're probably like, you know what, that 13, it's got to go.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a 13th zodiac, I'm pretty sure.
Well, it also makes me think, though, about the night sky. And when you pull up one of those apps, right, and you're like looking at the stars that make up the zodiacs, there's a lot more in the sky. So what are those other fucking things?
What do you mean?
Like the celestial clusters, like the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Orion's belt.
Those are constellations.
Right. So where do they all fit into the whole thing?
They're stars. They're clusters of stars.
Right. That's what I know. But I'm just saying, like, they all probably have a story and a history and a meaning. And
yes,
there's so much. There's so much in the night sky. Too much. It's too much in the night sky.
Oh, see, I should have known the name of the 13th sign because my daughter talks about this because she's like, oh, I'm actually born in the 13th zodiac. And I don't think that this pronunciation is correct, but she calls it a physicus. I don't think that that's actually how you pronounce it, but it is the 13th or forgotten constellation of the zodiac. It's just not used in Western astrology.
Well, I feel like we should do something this coming round.
Yeah, and it's depicted as a man holding a snake.
Oh.
It comes from the Greek word, which means serpent bearer.
Is it a masculine? Well, we'll have to get into it later.
So basically, the zodiac was created like 2,500 years ago, and it was one zodiac sign for each of the 12 lunar months that, were used at that point. Because really, what we do here and like how we look at astrology is more based on seasons than it is anything else. More than constellations. But it does beg the question, like, and I thought about this too whenever I went to Jenny D's astrology group. There's just so much to learn and so much that we do not take into account.
Yeah.
And just like when you think about, oh, what zodiac sign are you, right? You only think about the sun sign typically.
Yes.
But your moon and your rising and like everything can have really important placements
totally
in your natal chart. So for those of you who are new, that is where all of these stars, planets, constellations were whenever you were born.
Yes.
At that specific time and location.
Correct. Because they always are shifting and moving because the Earth is rotating, as are all of the other planets. And so it all has a direct connection to each other and pull, but there's movement happening all the time. And so it is critical that if you start this journey, start with your birth chart and then move, because that will move with it. And then that will give you an idea of what makes you you, what makes you uniquely you.
You can get your birth chart for free on astro.com too.
Yeah. Just make sure you get your time right. I'm a 1313. 1:13 p.m.
I'm a PM as well. But I'm a night chart.
All right.
I didn't know that was a different thing either. Jenny D taught me that difference in day charts and night charts.
Oh, interesting.
And you can actually see it on the natal chart.
Fascinating.
Yeah, they use different colors for the different symbols.
Yeah. Well, I reference, when she was on at the beginning of 2025. So if you guys missed that, we did have an awesome astrologer on, and she talks about the forecast for 2025 as a collective and hits on some of these. And we talk about Aries season. And this Aries season is going to be pretty fucking spicy.
Well, I mean, I think Aries season in general is pretty spicy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a fire sign. There's a lot going on. It's the cardinal fire sign too, which I just realized that out of all 4 elements, earth, air, water, and fire, there's a cardinal zodiac that basically rules that sign or that element.
That element, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and really with Aries being a cardinal sign, it's about taking initiative and taking the lead.
Mm-hmm. And it's the number 1. It's the beginning of. So it's the start of all the things. The head rules Aries as far as the body's concerned. Where your ego also lives is in your head. Like there's so much symbolism and connection when I was doing Aries. I was like, oh.
Did you look up where it is in your birth chart?
Mm-mm. I did not.
I challenge you to do that.
I know.
Yeah, I did. I don't have any significant Aries placements in my chart, but it does follow my 3rd house. And so I did make some notes about that because the 3rd house is associated with like your mind and thinking and how we communicate and our social activities and our interests. So when you have Aries in the 3rd house, that really like represents that like direct, open kind of communication, that like expressing yourself and really being proactive. That's like a big thing with Aries is they're like known for being proactive. So when it's in your 3rd house, like it is for me, I'm more proactive about my like communication or, my activities and interests and stuff like that. So what I was reading about it though, is it makes me more open to change and adaptable, which I found really interesting just because of where it falls in the placement. But the other side of this is it makes me like restless in my like thirst for like practical knowledge and wisdom and experience, which, has its downfalls as well. Because it's about, for me, if I'm harnessing this energy, where it falls in my natal chart is about not rushing through the learning experience.
Right. And Aries energy lends itself to that go, go, go.
Right.
Impulse, must do, don't worry about the details, just go. And I do think that there's a balance there. And, based on what Jenny had said earlier, that this particular Aries season, it's like start whatever it is, start the project, start the initiatives, embrace that energy, and also heed that energy with experience, making sure that impulses are limited or controlled, right? Like you can have an impulse if you have experience to know what's going to be the outcome of. You know what I mean? Maybe I need to put like an example behind that or something. Oh, I'm terrible at thinking of examples on the go. If you are doing something, like maybe you're starting a workout again and you kind of know what you're catered towards, like what speaks to you as far as exercise, what your limitations are, then go full speed ahead, do that because you know what the outcome's going to be because you've done it in the past. Like, what that, like whatever that is. Like for me, that would be yoga or Pilates or starting a serious walking exercise. Like I know that I would be capable of doing that. I'm not going to be injured, that sort of thing. Like you kind of know your body's limitations.
Okay.
But if you're starting something brand new, like you've never done it before, like training for a marathon or, swimming and you've never swam, like do that, but heed that as well. Don't go full gung-ho into it.
Right.
I don't know if that's a great example, but that's the first one that came to my brain.